Well, welcome. My name is Tim McKee, and I'm the CEO of the Olathe Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome you today to our webinar. So our goal has been to help you sort through and interpret the multiple and complex regulatory, legislative, and private sector activities stemming from the nation's response to the public health and economic challenges that we've had with the coronavirus. And today we have a very interesting call with us. And first, I'd like to introduce a few people that are on the call. Susie Carson is our VP of membership, and she's going to be helping me today during this video through this call. So if you have questions that you would like to ask our speaker, please do so in the Zoom, and we will try and get those to our speaker. We have a wonderful sponsor of this call today, and that is Turner Construction. And we have with us Karen Hogan. She is the VP and General Manager for Turner Construction, and they've been a long-time chamber member and supporter of the Olathe Chamber. So Karen, please introduce yourself and then introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tim, and good morning. I'm so honored to be on this call and talk with Julie today. I've been with Turner in Kansas City for 18 years and recently took over as a VP General Manager. I'm honored to be here. Turner Construction is a construction manager. We're dedicated and community partner with an office in Olathe. We're passionate about education and our youth, and we've been honored to renovate or build over 40 projects within the Olathe School District. And we're also a long-standing partner with other KC Metro schools. I want to give a huge kudos to all the educators, administration, and board members who are faced with an impossibly difficult task in these unfounded times. As a parent of 2 young elementary age kids, I know the struggles that everyone is facing, but I know as a community, we will get through this. We will survive. So thank you to everyone. I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Julie Sluyter, who is an educator with over 5 years of experience, with the last 15 being in the Olathe School District. Dr. Sluyter has taught in small town, urban, and suburban school districts, primarily as an elementary music teacher, and has a passion for working with Title I buildings, supporting the students in poverty. She's entering her 3rd year as the principal of Indian Creek Elementary. And before we turn it over to Dr. Sluyter, we're gonna watch a quick video. Susie?
Creek Elementary. I'm Dr. Julie Sluyter. Let's go see inside. Students will be coming in from all different directions, walking, car riders, bus, daycare, but this is the main entrance for our students that are car riders. Students are going to have a staggered schedule when they come in, and so they're going to be coming in not in one big herd like they used to be, or sitting in the gym waiting for arrival times, but they're going to be walking in as they come and go straight back to class. This is our office, and in the office, our nurses station is located, and this year it's going to look a little different. The nurses are going to look a little different this year in that they are going to be mainly going to students in the classroom for med checks, for small instances where they're needed, but for the majority of larger medical conditions, they will be contacted by teachers remotely or by email, and then they will come and arrange a time to come get them. If the students do show signs of COVID or some significant medical condition that we are not sure what they need for the hospital, we're going to be using an isolation room until their parents come and pick them up. And this is, let's see. And so this is our lunchroom, and in the past, students would come and line up by what kind of lunch they got. Our building is choosing to give students their lunches by alphabetical order so that we can keep them in that stable group and ensure that we know for contact tracing which kids were next to each other. They're also going to have assigned seatings that is spread out. You can see by the colored dots that students are going to be forward facing, and with a smaller hybrid schedule at first, we can really manage how many students are in the lunchroom at a time. All right. In our hallways, we've got lots of extra signage that's going up, both on the walls for social distancing. We have some creative ways of showing social distancing with our mascot that's going on the floor. We also have some signs reminding students to wash their hands and to ensure good health practices. Students are going to be in an ABC line for quite a while so that we can ensure we know which students are standing next to each other. And then we have a classroom. So this is an example of a second grade classroom, and there really isn't a ton of changes other than desks are no longer in collaborative groups or cooperative groups. They are actually spread out, they're forward facing. A lot of times you'll see some dots on the floor that help with social distancing with class meetings, and for teachers to give students sometimes some traffic patterns. You may see in some classrooms that they will have arrows facing to help students know which direction they need to travel in to ensure that they're not crossing paths. Some classrooms will have cubbies and they're usually spread out. Classroom libraries may look a little different this year. Instead of students bringing home as many books, they might be checking out ebooks, using our Destiny website to help put books on hold so that the librarian can bring them books instead of using the ones in their classroom. Okay. So students will be traveling to specials classes. We were initially going to have specials teachers pushed into their classrooms, but they decided that that's not what's best for kids at this point, and it keeps them safe, allowing those teachers to have their own classroom sanitized in between each of the classrooms. So this is library. You'll notice that we've got an exit sign here, so we're going to go on the wrong side, but we've had to change our traffic patterns and allow for students to come in one side and exit the other. You'll see that there's still some floor space, so students can gather for story times, read alouds, but the dots help us social distance and make sure that students are set apart. We also have several of our computer banks will be shut down so that we can ensure social distancing there. Some of the furniture has been either eliminated if it was soft surfaces that couldn't be cleaned, and some of the chairs have been removed so that we can ensure students are spread apart as well. Students will be able to use the water fountains as bottle fillers. They won't be able to use them to get direct drinks. So we've labeled that and have some coverings on them. Bathroom breaks will be the same as usual, except on a more scheduled time frame. So students will be spread out. We're going to ensure that they are washing their hands before lunch and anytime they use playground equipment. So they still have recess. They're spread into zones as well, so that only their class will be on one section of the playground at a time, and then they'll be able to rotate that during different recess times. So in the hallway, we initially thought that we would have to do one-way hallways, but that is not necessary with the way that our schedule has been redone, so that we have some passing time available for those students. So they really will just be spread apart in their classrooms, in their class lines, and then be able to travel without intertwining with other grade levels. The students will be wearing masks all the time during school, and there are only a couple times when they get to take those off. One is at recess and one is at PE, as long as they can social distance. So when they travel to PE, they're going to be bringing their water bottles, probably in those drawstring bags as well, and they're going to be able to take their masks down, either with a lanyard some schools are doing, or we might have one where they can hang it up on a social distance hook and then be able to play. We're really encouraging kids to just play outside as much as possible instead of being cooped up inside the gym. Every school in Olathe operates with a positive behavior system for their students, and that this COVID era has really caused us to rethink how that works, whether it's using tokens or tickets or bans. So for our school, we're having to isolate kids in their grade level pods so that they get a ticket, they can go immediately into a box in their area without them traveling throughout the school. Some schools are doing remote virtual rewards, so you can see their rewards climb per grade level. So it's just a different system, but hopefully it'll still work. Okay, then dismissal. So our dismissal process has been staggered. We used to have students go at about 3:38 to line up and congregate in the gym, and then they would wait for their card numbers, buses to arrive. That's all different. So at our school, we have 3 different bell systems. So the first bell lets our JCPRD students, the after school care kids, come straight to the gym, small number in the hallway, they can go. The next bell would release our bus and our daycare students, and they would travel into the gym for socially distanced lines where they would wait for their buses to come and then be dismissed as the buses arrive. And then our car riding system is the biggest one that's changed. And so we are having all of our students stay in their classrooms. We have a teacher calling numbers that are in the car windows, and then another teacher at the end of the radio who is writing it down in a Zoom meeting. And so all those Zoom pictures are up in the classrooms. When the student sees their number, then they're going to come through the front doors and exit like they used to last year, just in a little different manner, get in their car, so we only have a few students moving at a time. We are super excited to have kids back in the building. It's been a long time coming. The teachers are excited. So we hope that that gave you a little glimpse of what our school year is going to look like.
Well, Julie, obviously, this has been the biggest question that a lot of people have, is just trying to go back to school and the safety of our students and our kids and also teachers. So can you talk a little bit more about this?
About the safety features?
Yes, yeah, whatever you'd like to share.
Well, I cannot tell you enough. The teachers are super excited. They just want the year to begin. They've gotten so many changes and things coming down that they just really want to have their kids in their classroom. Somebody mentioned that it's been, when we start school, it'll have been 178 days that our kids have not been in a school. And that's significant. And for some of our students, that's a time where they feel safe, they feel loved, and to be able to have teachers just be able to be near them and help them through this crazy traumatic time is going to be exciting. I know our staff in Olathe has done an amazing job of handling lots of changes. As all of you know, it's been almost daily that there's been a change, and they really do just roll with the punches and are trying to just get the most current information, change their practices to ensure the safety of the students.
So Julie, what's probably been the most difficult issue for you, to get this thing going?
Mm-hmm. I would say being able to put our feet in the ground and say, this is the decision we're making, and be able to plan around that. Teachers want to do what's best. They want to stay safe. They want the kids to be safe, but we still have to do the business of school. And so to be able to navigate all the changes and input that we're getting from the state and the county, and being able to disseminate that to all teachers and be consistent so that a parent at Manchester Park will get the same safety protocols that someone here at Indian Creek does. And then for the teachers on a more individual level, it's how do I socially distance with kids and still love them? I will tell you, the first time we had our lunch distribution at our school was like the week after school let out, and kids didn't understand, and they said socially distance, and I had a kid come running down the hill, Mrs. Sluyter, and so I hugged him. I did. and so trying to figure out how can we still have that physical connection with our kids, but at a distance. It's really tricky.
Susie, you're muted. Sorry.
Quota 2020, right? You're on mute. Julie, so I've got a question I think you hinted on. So mental health, how are you guys addressing mental health with teachers and with students? Because this is going to look different for elementary kids. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because for our staff, I'm actually not in a meeting right now that's all about adult mental health. We felt like, just as you have in your businesses, you have people running the gamut of feelings. You have those that it doesn't really bother them, they're doing their protocols, they're fine, to people who are emotionally a mess just because of the unknown. And even though you have a plan on paper, until you see it in reality, you're not quite sure how it's going to affect you. So the school district has really taken a stance that if our educators are not okay, our kids will not be okay, because we have to be able to to fill their buckets out of our overflow, not from a depleted sense. So like our staff and another building are partnering together today to just talk about what are your biggest concerns emotionally, personally, and then getting them help. If there are options for counseling and small groups, we get them connected with that. Our school counselors, especially at the elementary level, are not just for our kids. We use them for our adults as well. But then on top of that, we are spending significant time with the social emotional learning of students. Our students, this is a trauma. A pandemic is a trauma. And how do we help them through that, understand their own feelings, understand that it's okay. So the first couple weeks of school, you're going to see a huge push. If your parents of school age kids, you're going to see a huge push of that relationship building and emotional response from teachers.
Julie,
Go ahead.
hold on one second. Just to set the stage, because we got this question, can you talk about what Olathe and how they are going back to school in regard to high school, middle school, and elementary school, just to kind of set the stage as to here's the process and here's who will be attending and not attending in Zoom. So can you lay that out a bit?
Yeah, so our high school and our middle school students are sort of hooked together. They're doing a remote learning model. So no students will be going to those schools. Elementary, however, is in a hybrid model, which means basically that a class is split in half, that we range from about 10 to maybe 12 kids in a class per day. They'll come 2 days a week. If it's a full day of week, we'll have a middle day that's a remote learning day where teachers can do some small group Zooms, get the whole class together on Zoom. And then the last 2 days is the second group. It's created some challenges, as you can imagine, with getting technology and starting everybody off. But as you saw in the video, it makes arrival and dismissal and lunch and recess, all those things easier to manage because we can teach it in smaller groups rather than try to introduce this whole new world with a huge group of people. So I think it's going to work out and it's going to be for the best. We also have a secondary group of kids that in elementary that are all remote. They chose that early on. So it's sort of a school within a school within a school.
Julie, actually, so you hit on a couple things and I have a few questions from what you were saying. So first of all, curriculum. So I know you're going to spend the first few weeks kind of getting kids acquainted, right? Comfortable with wearing their masks. They also lost some time last school year. How are teachers adapting to this? Are we, you guys, do we expect people to be behind, or is it something we think we can catch up, or are we adjusting furthermore?
Mm-hmm. Great question. And that's one we get from parents a lot. Are we going to reteach fourth quarter in this new grade level? And we have spent a lot of time taking our curriculum from this big package that we would love to teach to, you know, some smaller standards that are absolutely essential. And looking back, we've taken those fourth quarter standards that students missed and really looked at, okay, what in this new grade level do we have to reteach real quickly so that they can build upon? So we're not reteaching the entire fourth quarter. I think that would drive everybody crazy. And I don't know that it would be the best use of our time, but really being strategic and pinpointing the standards that we absolutely need to move forward. And so they've adjusted our pacing guides and our scope and sequence just to reflect that. That's pretty much what they spent most of the summer doing.
Wonderful. So you mentioned connectivity. Obviously, it's not just about getting a device in a student hand, that one-on-one. It also matters on the service that they have at home, the quality of that service, et cetera. What has the conversation been around that?
That actually, I was super impressed at the district because when we shut down, I was just like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with the rest of the year? They immediately thought of that need. The conversation started back in March of how do we connect these parents that, you know, if they start losing work, internet's going to be one of the first things to go. Their budget won't be able to handle it. So how can we connect those families, keep them connected through the pandemic when maybe school is the only connection they had with services and support? So the district actually is offering hotspots to families that need it. And so they can go to our district website and apply for those. And then they're free of charge. As long as we're in this hybrid model, they can use that, and it can connect multiple devices in that home. So if you've got a high school or middle school, couple elementary kids, you can all connect at the same time.
Wonderful. It's great to hear you're thinking about that, which we knew you were, which is just nice to hear it. Okay, so I've got a couple questions from some of our attendees. So are the elementary schools at full capacity, or did you see a majority of people choose remote and the schools aren't as full? What did you see as far as parents that chose to go or not go?
It's interesting at the elementary level. I haven't seen the entire spread, but we got a report that it was something like one school could have been 5% chose remote, to the upper end of about 38% remote. I'm probably at the higher end of that. But the rationale was so different for families, because families have to choose what is going to work best for them in this situation. So some chose because of immunocompromised family members, maybe aging parents, maybe work schedules. Some are even doing little group cohorts in neighborhoods to try to support each other. So it runs the gamut.
Wonderful. Karen, I think you had a question. Is that right?
I do, yes, thank you. Julie, like I said, I have 2 kids as well. What is the first day of school going to look like for the children that are attending? Are parents going to be allowed to drop off? Do they have to stay outside? Can they go see the classroom? What's that going to look like?
That is probably, I'm going to say, a little sad for me, because I love the kindergarten parents that come back with the pictures and the hugs, and we have donuts and bagels and make it a little easy transition. It's probably going to pull a little heartstrings this year because we can't have visitors in the building. So, but what I have tried to let parents know is that we are not opening the doors and saying, go find your classroom. There are so many adults that are going to be there to support those kids, to just bring them in, take their hand, socially distanced, but to try to help get them acclimated to a new building, to new people, to new classrooms. So, even though parents won't be allowed inside, I know a lot of schools are doing photo ops outside, offering beep and greets around the district, or you can go and wave at your teacher. We're doing an iPad distribution on Thursday, where the remote teachers are going to be the ones distributing the iPads so students can see that. But first day of school and parties will look a little different with no visitors, but we're gonna try to make it as seamless for kids. It probably will be more upsetting for parents to not be there, but we're going to try to keep it for kids very calm and like, this is going to be okay. It's not a big deal.
Right.
That's one of the toughest things as a mom. We know the sports and the schools for the children, but darn it, I want to go. So we have to, we have to take a step back and realize, yes, it's about the kids. Absolutely. So, okay, a couple more questions we have here. So can you walk us through what would happen if you have a few COVID cases that surface in elementary school?
Yes. So we have a district protocol that every school will follow. And if a teacher sees that a student has several of the symptoms that would be on that protocol, they would contact the nurse. The nurse would prepare the room, make sure that they can get there in the safest way possible, not crossing tracks with anybody else. If they believe that they could be COVID, then they will put them in an isolation room with another adult that's trained to use that space. Only a few people will be able to be in there. And then they assess the student, call the parents, and the protocol would say that students would need to be picked up within 30 minutes. We want to try to get them out as quickly as possible. So parents have options. They can either get a COVID test and look for those positive, negative results and follow the protocols for Johnson County there. They could choose to wait it out for the entire incubation period, which would then probably impact family members and siblings and such. But then we follow Johnson County Health Department's contact tracing, and that then moves to the district. So if students did have a direct exposure, and that means that students were without masks in close proximity for 10 minutes or more, then they would receive an official notice that says they have had an exposure, and then they can always contact their principal, the nurse, for more information. But again, we'll protect student confidentiality, staff confidentiality, but there will be an official notice if there is ever a direct exposure.
Julie, we had another question about internet service, and I think you answered it, to some point, but obviously a lot of people are working from home, have multiple kids. you know, may have multiple kids in the house, all trying to Zoom all at the same time. Can you talk about that process, about the hotspot again, and you know, how do you apply for that? How does that help? And I assume that would allow multiple people to be on the internet at one time, or hopefully that's the process or the thought behind that. And can you talk more about that? And Julie, you might talk, I know we have some Title I schools that, and you might talk about kind of how many kids that the school district had that without internet service or low internet service as well too. I know John Allison, our superintendent, had talked a little bit about that, and that was one of our biggest challenges, I know, going to remote. So can you talk about all those things? Sorry. You with everything.
Right. So with the hotspot on our district website, there is parent technology support links, and you can always click that, and that will take you to any kind of support that you might need, whether it's connecting an actual device to our district wireless system, or whether it's to request a hotspot. If you can't seem to find that, your principal has links to that. Your teachers should have links to that. They can answer any of those questions to get you connected with that service. My understanding is they want you to be able to use it for multiple students. If you have an older student, like a high school student and youngers, you'd probably go through that older student's school to receive that hotspot. So with our title buildings, a lot of our struggle has been just to get the word out, to make sure people understand that it's even available. So I know with my building, we use our interpreter a lot for our Spanish speaking families, our Berber speaking families, to make sure that they have it in their language to understand the process and the protocols for obtaining one of those. But yeah, that is obviously an option for families. And then I'm forgetting your second part of that question.
Well, actually, part of the question from the individual on the chat was that are there certain parameters in regard to who can get the hotspot? You know, they were stating that one of the parameters is that you if you had the internet, you couldn't apply. Is that necessarily the case? And you know, and I assume this is just trying to help people without. Is that correct?
Yes, that's going to be their primary focus. My guess would be if that family had, you know, spotty internet, it was very low grade, can only handle one device, that would be something that you might want to contact your principal and just say, here's the situation. What can I do? And they may be able to work that after those no internet connected people receive those hotspots, that there may be additional ones that they could help with. But really contact your principal. Just talking about it and letting them know, communicating the need is the first step. We can't help if we don't know.
Julie, I mean, the other question that I threw out to you was how many people are without? I mean, I think that's what people don't understand is how many people that there are students without internet or good internet. The number is staggering, correct? I mean,
and I haven't heard the most recent one, but I just can speak to my school. Like I said, as people lose their jobs and lose income, cell phones and internet service are going to be one of the first things that they drop. They're looking for food. Our food pantry is used weekly by a multitude of families. And so if you're choosing feed your family or get internet, you know what they're going to choose. And so anytime the district can step in and try to support these families, take one more thing off their plate so that they don't have to worry about schooling for their children, that's going to be a place where we want to be. And that's, I think, the drive behind the hotspots and getting those kids one-to-one iPads in elementary and upgrading the middle school and high school technology plan, just to be able to give them something they're going to need for who knows how long.
Julie, actually, what can the business community, parents, or just the community in general do to help?
Love on your teachers. I'm going to just tell you that, number one. Love on your teachers. They pour their heart and soul into our schools. I can't tell you how many times teachers have cried in my office because of the passion they have for our kids, and they want to do so much more, and they don't know at this point. So many things are changing. They just want to do their best for our kids and love on them. So love on teachers. And, you know, if your business is not part of our Adopt a School program, I would really encourage you to work with Heather Schoonover, our community liaisons, to get signed up, because every school has individual needs. I mean, our Adopt a School partners have helped us get canvas backpacks for students for specials. They built our clothing closet so families weren't shopping for clothes out of Rubbermaid containers. They give that dignity. So I really appreciate the businesses that step alongside us and look for those small ways to help our schools. So that would be my first and biggest plea, is to get involved that way.
Wonderful. What about from a parent standpoint?
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. First of all, please give us grace. We're giving our parents grace, and we know your work situations are tricky. Some are working from home, some are navigating extra kids. So we are giving grace as we enter the school year. It's still a little unsure of what it's going to look like. So just give us grace as we're trying to do the same thing. But parents, reach out, communicate. Don't worry and fester and think about things in your own, when we're here to help. So ask the questions. There is no wrong answer or no wrong question. And like I said earlier, sometimes I don't know of needs until you tell me. So just communicate constantly with teachers. That's really what they want.
Perfect. So I have another question that came in about busing. So with an elementary student waiting for a bus, if that child has a fever before the child steps on the bus, what is the protocol?
Interesting. Well, we are relying on parents to be monitoring their students' health prior to getting on buses and prior to getting to school. We know that always doesn't happen. I know my own kids, you know, had the incident in the car on the way to school. So we know that, but our teachers have been trained in COVID protocols in sickness, just general sickness. You know, most of my teachers are parents, and they can spot a kid that is not feeling well within 2 seconds. So we'll still follow those same health protocols once they get there, but we really are relying on parents to monitor their kids' health. If they're not feeling well, please keep them home.
Wonderful.
Especially with the connectivity, we can do that from home, which is nice.
Perfect. Okay, so I've got another question, and I know you're principal of elementary, so this may be asking for the older ages a little bit. So this may not be in your expertise, but the 21st century. We've got a couple questions about that. Do you know what the how they're navigating that? I guess doing the 21st century program remotely.
I would probably have to know a little bit more about their question, to be honest with you. My understanding is that they are still navigating those courses and the requirements by Zoom, that those students, should they have their advisor, that they can still reach out to them. Again, grace, give them grace. We're not going to have those instantaneous expectations that we had in the normal in educational environment. So just speak with their advisor if they have comments or questions about how that program is being implemented. But yes, they're going to still follow those same high school and secondary protocols for Zooming and scheduling.
Wonderful. Okay, so my next question, so I've heard chatter that after September, there's going to be a reevaluation. Yet I've also heard chatter that what you pick now lasts for the semester. Can you kind of clear that up and what the plan is moving forward?
Yes. So when parents enrolled, they got to choose at the elementary level whether they, well, actually every level, whether they wanted to be in person or remote. That will stay for the entire semester. And so at the semester, we'll have another sort of re-enrollment where they'll get to choose again whether they would like to come back to the building or still stay remote. That is different than what we're going through right now with the hybrid. Remote learning will occur regardless of what is happening in our community. If you selected remote, you are fine right now. You are just going to continue plugging away. But with the hybrid, the reason we are in this is because of the numbers in Johnson County, the cases. So September 22nd, our district will pull the data that is current and do some evaluation on what that's going to look like for our school. Are we still at those high numbers? Is hybrid still working? Is it the best for our students, keeping our community safe and cases as low as possible? Or have they dropped and we feel comfortable going back in person for the students that selected that in-person option. And so once that data is evaluated, they will make a decision. And as our board member said, they would love to be back in school on the 28th with, you know, our in-person selected students just like normal. We'll see what happens. So I'm trusting our district to look at those numbers very carefully and make those decisions. And it will be a transition. It will not be boom overnight, we're going to be back in school. We're going to give parents some time to adjust, and teachers to adjust, and principals to adjust. So,
you know, if only we all knew what would happen in the next 3 months, right? I think we're all trying to navigate that. So,
yeah.
Tim,
And Julie, can I ask just a follow-up on that question? So if you chose remote learning for the first semester, you have a choice then after when it comes to the second semester, correct? Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, and parents will get more information as we get closer to that end of November, December time when they would make those selections. They'll talk about teacher choice, and you know, you'd have to leave a remote teacher to go in person, and so we'll give more direction then. I think we're just trying to get through that first week of school.
Okay, Julie, so one of the questions, and I've also heard this, you know, I'm getting it now, and I've also heard it outside, the 360 minutes of learning per day. So one is happening with middle school and high school where they have to be on the computer so long. And then also with elementary with the hybrid, when they're not in school, there's that requirement as well. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's attainable? And how can parents maybe help their kids with that plan?
Well, first of all, I want to clear up any misconception that we expect students to be on an iPad for 360 minutes a day. I still get parents very concerned. You want my child to be on how long? That is not the intent. The intent is 360 minutes of learning. And so that can be with a 45-minute Zoom meeting with their class, learning about social emotional health and getting to know the students. That can be a 20-minute independent reading time that they have at home. Teachers will be giving them some options for activities and independent work time. And honestly, some students will spend more time on that, less time on that, just like normal. But teachers will actually, in our online learning system, they'll actually put the anticipated amount of time that they believe students would spend on something, and that's how parents can log. We don't expect parents to sit side by side with their children for 360 minutes a day or on that computer, and that's overwhelming. And I don't know that that message has gotten out as well as it should. That's not what's best for kids. And honestly, if you look at the elementary level, there are certain stipulations for how long students should be on at the different bands. So K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they go up incrementally, obviously, up to high school.
So Julie, can I follow up with that? So a lot of that may be on the honor system then. If there's some break time and kids are supposed to read or have I assume that there'll be some sort of homework during that time, and so a lot of it may be on the honor system. Is that correct then?
Yeah, we're not going to be sitting there monitoring. So yes, and there are times I've had parents reach out to me and say, I'm working on those off days. There's no way my child can get that work done independently as a first grader. What do you want me to do? And I said, that can be some weekend time. If you're reading as a family, if you're doing some art projects with your children based on the learning plan that we have, that's time well spent learning and engaged in education, and those minutes will count. So if they can spend that time and just make learning and education a priority in their family, those minutes will come a lot easier than they think they will.
Hey, Julie, will the district be sending worksheets home with the children so when they have the independent study, they have it, or will parents need to print that out at home? Or is it all electronic? How's that going to look?
We are very sensitive to the fact that not everybody has access to a printer. We know what technology we're sending home that students can utilize. So a lot of things you may see will be electronic. That iPads, you can actually do your math page on an iPad and send it in without ever touching paper. But we also know that some students need that differentiation. They need that paper. They need the physical touching of a pencil. And so we're going to work with your kids We'd like to not send home paper just because of that we don't want to contaminate anything and we want to keep that distance. But like with our students with special education, we know that electronic devices may not be the best for them and students that need that physical assistance. So it's really going to be an individual need. And again, that goes back to parents communicate. Let us know my child is not doing well with this electronic piece. They do need the paper copies, and then teachers can work with them on that.
Julie, thank you. First of all, I know we're rapid firing at you. You were doing fantastic.
It's been my world lately. So.
So I've got a couple comments, and I kind of want to pull it back to this question, just because mental health has been a topic of conversation for the past few months. So we had one of the attendees that mentioned she loved that you said that, you know, parents need focus and time too for that mental health, and that counselors aren't just for the kids. Mm-hmm. So do you have, are you aware of any, I guess, any resources for parents that might be struggling during this time as we all navigate this new environment?
Absolutely. And so every school counselor has family resources that are available to them. And I know in my parent newsletter, we're working on a component just for that to support parents. Johnson County Mental Health also offers lots of options and resources, but we have an entire counseling department. And so they are going to be working on parent supports throughout the year. We don't want parents to do it alone. No one is in this alone. So we just need to come together and make sure that we get parents the support they need, whether it's family dynamic help. You've been stuck together for months and months. I'm speaking from my own family. I may need therapy just on my but maybe it's just, you know, I'm stressed. I don't know how to navigate work and kids and school, and we want to support you. And so again, this is not just a kid. We can't just work on the kid if there's issues with the whole family that we need to address that will end up ultimately helping everyone. So your first step would be contacting your principal, your counselor at your child's school and say, what adult resources do you have? What family resources? And then just be looking for our district and in your school newsletters for options for those family resources as well.
Joe, we had another question about kids with IEPs and, you know, with a little extra help and paras that have helped in the past. How will that look, and how will that take place, if at all?
Yeah, well, all IEP services will still be offered through the district. We won't be putting IEPs to the side at all. We want to support every student, and those special education students have those diverse needs. Para support is one that we are still navigating to make sure that we have all those students supported in virtual classrooms, in person. So the use of Zoom and breakout rooms for small groups with para support, that's going to be vital for our remote learners. And, you know, if there is something on an IEP that can't be addressed during this remote environment, that's going to be a team discussion. And that's where you really reach out to your special education teachers and have that connection, that community, that conversation, and let us know. You have to remember, we haven't seen these kids in months. And so the kid we remember in March may not be the kid we get back in August or September. So just letting us know what has been your experience during this pandemic, and where can we fill in those gaps, and what para support is needed. Maybe the student doesn't need as much para support. It's just going to be a conversation.
Julie, and is there outside support? I've heard some programs or some things that are being proposed through the YMCA, through JCDS. Are you familiar with those? And are you aware of that? And how will that work? Or
can you clarify what kind of programs?
Well, I think that this may be for parents that are essential workers, or that, you know, that were remote, you know, kids that are in remote learning and that they're an essential worker, or maybe a one-parent household. Have you heard about those programs, or have you, is there any recommendations that you might have in that regard?
Actually, my husband actually works at the Jewish Community Center, and they service essential workers. And so I know the conversation has been around childcare for those individuals that will still support remote learning. And I know there are other options that parents can reach out to different childcare situations or after school care that they can actually support that remote learning when parents aren't able to. As far as family supports, they are still offering those same kinds of family resources. I'm sure they've ramped it up in COVID environment that we have and adding some supports there, but I'm not familiar with exactly those resources.
All right, Julie, so thank you so much. You've been with us for about 50 minutes, so we've got one more question for you. I know you've done fantastic. You can tell this has been a conversation, and you guys, thank you for loving on our kids, and we're excited to get them back in school. So whatever that looks like, whether it's remote or in school, absolutely. Thank you for that. Is there any last parting words that you would like to just let people know before we send kids back? Kids are back, right? September 8th.
They are.
Last words.
Well, I love that you said it's about the kids. And I know families and parents have anxiety, have uncertainty, and that is very real. And I am not ever going to negate that. You are going through something that we would never have expected a year ago. But remember, for your kids, it's still a fresh first day of school. It's exciting and it's going to be fun. And so as much support and positive energy and thoughts and comments that you can make to get them excited for this will help us navigate all the icky stuff that we have to do, the masks and all that. But we want to provide the most fun and exciting first day of school possible for these kids.
Well, Julie, thank you. Thank you for everything you guys are doing. I will tell you that our school districts have always been our #1 economic development tool and helping business, attract business to Johnson County and to Olathe, and just want to say thank you for everything you guys are doing and for our kids and helping prepare our workforce for the future as well too. So it looks like, Susie, we had one last question. I just wanted to make sure that one came in. We've got a little more time, so I don't want to cut off anyone if they did have it.
Yep, my apologies, it just came in. So, okay, so can you walk a family through what Tuesday morning at 7:30 looks like? They maybe just help them through that first day. What are parents doing?
Well, if they're in person, they can come and drive up to their school. If they're dropping their student off, they can get pictures outside depending on what their school policy is. And just give them lots of love as they go and trust their teachers. They'll make sure they get them back to the exact right place. No one will get lost. If you're a remote learner, be looking for those connections by email with your teachers, because that first Zoom meeting is going to be powerful. It's going to be exciting and it's going to be fun.
And Julie, would you recommend that they look to download? Are there things that they need to prepare for before that first Zoom call? Because I assume there's things that need to be downloaded and things like that prior to. Is that correct?
Yes, and this week is the deployment week for devices if they haven't already had it. So in those, with our deployment, we have instructions that parents can download and have their Olathe ID ready, their parent view, student view, accounts logged in, and there's always the help desk. If you're really struggling, they can walk you through. They have helped me many times. So try to do that before Tuesday so that you're not stuck that morning trying to scramble and figure it out.
I would, knowing technology, I would definitely recommend that. So, yeah. Well, Julie, thank you. Thank you for being on and helping us through this. And like I said, there are a lot of questions, and it's just the unknown. This is all new, everyone, and good luck.
Thank you.
Sure. Karen, thank you very, very much for Turner Construction sponsoring this and everything you do in our community as well, too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Good luck, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Bye, everyone.